With spring ball approaching, the Colorado Buffaloes may have just suffered a huge loss.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure you're liking, subscribing, and following so you don't miss out on a moment of our coverage. And thank you for making me your first listen. Let's talk about the attrition we just saw today. So, as reported by Scott Proctor of DNVR, Isaiah Augusta, the running back, led the team in rushing last year, is no longer with the program. The vibe I'm getting is that maybe he was poached away, but also maybe things just didn't work out in Boulder. That being said, it's one of those things where I talked about this the other day, and I'll talk about it again. Colorado's running back room was not impressive last year. I think a lot of that was due to there's a multitude of factors. The offensive line wasn't very good. Couldn't get a push forward during run blocking situations. I think Shedeur Sanders and Pat Shermer kind of hinted at this, and you can't put all the blame on Shedeur, but I think there was moments where he called out of run plays. I think the offense, Pat Shermer himself, didn't make it a point to run the ball. And then lastly, I don't know if the running backs as a unit just were able to make plays when needed last year. So losing Isaiah Augusta, I'll tell you what I think this does to the team and sort of why I'm not too worried in a way. So first of all, he's not the only player to leave too, as according to Brian Howell over at Buff Zone, Sam Hart, the tight end who transferred in from Ohio State last year, didn't do much, if anything, this past season. He left, and apparently Savion Riley's also out. But of the three, I think Isaiah Augusta is the biggest loss because he was the one guy that seemed to be able to make things happen with this offensive line. Now, that being said, this is where I'm not worried, right? I would have liked to see what he could do with a better offensive line, a new offense, and a quarterback in Caden Salter, who I expect to win the job, in an RPO game with him. I would have liked to see that, right? But we're not going to see that, unfortunately. But this past season, and again, this is why I'm not really worried. Isaiah Augusta, these were his stats last year. 85 carries for 384 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per carry. He also had 11 catches for 62 yards. So you're not losing a ton, right? Anytime a unit like this loses a guy, it's like, oh, shucks. Like, we would have liked to keep him. But at the same time, Colorado's the rushing offense, ranked dead last in college football last year, averaging just 65 yards a game. In terms of like Isaiah Augusta's best game, and I think he had bright moments. Like, I don't want this to sound like I'm just taking a you-know-what on him, but his best game was against Cincinnati, 22 carries for 91 yards, 4.1 yards per carry and a touchdown. Like, Colorado just has never gotten, at least under Deion Sanders, they have not been getting anything out of their run game. So I think that Isaiah Augusta, here's the options, because I don't want to read too much into the rumors, because obviously the only people that know if they're true are the people that are involved in the situation. Maybe someone was like, hey, you could do a little bit better, right? We have an offense line that'll block for you. We've seen what you could do. We want to put you in a position to succeed. Or B, maybe he just was no longer feeling Colorado, right? Maybe it just was like, you know what, it's time for me to change. The transfer portal opens up next week. Obviously, it's not officially open, but that doesn't mean there's not back channeling. Or C, and this could also be it, spring game is approaching in 10 days, and Michael Welch is healthy, or is supposed to be healthy. Dallin Hayden's back, right? Brandon Hood's there. So it's one of those things where it's like maybe he just sort of fell down the depth chart and was like, you know what? I don't want to be here if I'm not going to be the guy. And Coach Prime has made it a point through, outside of Shedeur really, and Travis, everyone has to fight for their positions, right? And I'm not saying they didn't have to fight for their positions, but it was pretty obvious, right? We knew those were the guys. Shedeur was announced as a starter before he had even transferred from Jackson State. But I think for the most part, he has been willing to take risks in the depth chart, and when it comes to making the depth chart, and we'll say, hey, he told Coach Flea last year, Charlie Offerdahl is a starter until further notice. And Charlie Offerdahl got the start. for the first, I think it was a couple games. Obviously, it didn't work out because Charlie Offerdahl ended up falling down to like 4th on the depth chart. But again, you have to sort of figure out what works. And if Isaiah Augusta is no longer part of that picture, well, then so be it. At the end of the day, this offense was not going to run, or it was not going to fail or succeed based on how Isaiah Augusta did this next season. That being said, I would have liked to see him this upcoming year. Obviously, if he's in the transfer portal or will be in the transfer portal, there's always a chance he could come back. I don't think he will. But it's one of those things where it's like you didn't want to lose him because I would say he's the most proven running back they have. That being said, I still am high on Michael Welch. I thought he could have been the starter last year had it not been for the injuries. And then there's also this little thing that Coach Prime seems to thrive in called the college football transfer portal. And I think that's where you sort of have to go from here if you're Colorado. In terms of Savion Riley, Colorado's safety depth chart or safety room, defensive back room, as I fumble for the words here, it was pretty solid. Even though they lose Shiloh, right? They lose Cameron Simon Craig. They have Tawfiq Bayard. They have Carter Stottmeyer, Makari Vickers recovering from injury or recovering from surgery. Ben Finiseth, obviously, has been around the program. So they have guys. They all also may have been like, hey, we're going to get someone from the portal. So I think it's when he was the guy that less. I don't like being in situations like this where it's like this guy's a non-factor because I don't want to say people or non-factors. Like obviously he worked hard to get to where he was. And I'm not trying to take away anything that he's accomplished in his athletic career. But he was pretty much a non-factor, right? They leaned on Savell Smalls. This year they brought in Zach Atkins, and Zach is I think he's going to be a pivotal part of the offense. So at the end of the day, if I had to rank these losses in terms of most disappointing, it'd probably be Isaiah, Savion, and then the tight end, right? Because it's just one of those things where it's like, what are you going to do, right? Portal opens pretty soon. Excuse me. Portal opens pretty soon, and I think Colorado, if there's any team who's going to be okay with a couple of depth pieces leaving, it'd be the Colorado Buffaloes. So let's talk about where they could go in the portal, because obviously I think the transfer portal is a big part of what Deion Sanders does. And I think there's 3 major positions that could really use some help in the portal as we approach spring ball next week or in a couple weeks. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsor over at SupplyHouse. Let me tell you about SupplyHouse. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades, SupplyHouse. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, SupplyHouse is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? SupplyHouse offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. It's transfer portal time, and I think there's 3 positions that really stand out for the Colorado Buffaloes where it's like, okay, we need to hit this, otherwise things could be a little dicey. I think the obvious one right now is running back, right? You have Michael Welch, you have Dallin Hayden, you have Brandon Hood, you have Charlie Offerdahl. Nobody in this room has shown me enough to be like, don't worry that Isaiah left. We have insert name here, right? Everyone looks good in practice, right? We've seen that. We've seen the well-off media videos for 2 years now where it's like, oh my gosh, like Charlie Offerdahl is breaking off huge runs at practice, or oh my gosh, Dallin Hayden is just a dude, a man amongst boys, right? We've seen it. and we've yet to see it translate into the game. So until we do, running back, major concern now because they don't have one. I think having a good run game helps the offense a lot, and I think it doesn't hurt to bring in more depth. Next position, I think wide receiver. And I find it interesting that people are so bought into what the coaches are saying in terms of like, oh yeah, we brought in, Cornell, Adrian, Quentin Gibson, all these guys as freshmen to play right away, right? We bring in freshmen to play right away. That's what they keep saying. They haven't shown that at receiver, right? Receiver, they brought in Jimmy Horn and Xavier Weaver, right, in year one, which obviously that was Coach Prime's first year, transfer portal year. Second year, Xavier Weaver leaves. They bring in Will Shepherd. They bring in LeJounte. Jimmy Horn returns. They have Travis. They had Cam. They had Omarion. They had Draylon. None of those guys really did much of anything. And for people to think that Colorado is going to fully trust or believe, I mean, it could happen, right? Anything could happen. But for them to fully believe that they're just going to be fine with all these young freshmen, because I think this is how the wide receiver room is going to look. It's going to be Omarion Miller, Joseph Williams, and Draylon Miller. I think those are the top three guys. Anything after that is going to be up for discussion. There's a reason they were in on Sincere Brown. There's a reason that I wanted them to go after Emmett Mosley, the Stanford transfer, because I don't think they have enough. I don't, or at least based on what we've seen from these coaches, is they will not ride with freshmen at receiver all that often. Now, it could be different because they may have to this year, but if you tell me that a couple veteran wide receivers dive into the room and are, I don't know, or dive into the room, the portal, and could be a possible option for Colorado. If you tell me that you don't think that they're going to go out and get one, I would tell you you're wrong, right? I think Colorado brings in at least one or two transfer wide receivers, just because I think they want more veteran experience. I think that's just what it comes down to. So we got running back, wide receiver. Let's go over to the defensive side of the ball for my third and final position, right? I think pass rushers, edge rushers. They got Arden Walker, Taj McCoy, Keaton Wade, Samuel Kunalola, Lennon Merritt. I think they're good there, right? I think I like what they have. Defensive tackles, interior defense linemen, Torian Carter, Tafiq Thomas, Amari McNeil, and Quinn Barnes, Jaheim Otis, Tavian Coleman. I like what they have there. Linebacker is where it gets concerning, right? You have Reginald Hughes, Jacksonville State transfer, and Martavius French, UTSA. I don't see the depth at linebacker. I think that could be a position of concern. You lose Levante Bentley. You lose Nakai Hill-Green, who's at Alabama now. And you're losing not only two really good players, but like the heart and soul of your defense in a way, or two guys that maybe helped the defense click. Because I feel like you can make an argument for Cameron Smith-Craig, Shiloh Sanders. I feel like those guys could also, Travis, could be the hearts of the defense. But I think the linebackers last year really made an impact, and I really think that they were a pivotal part of what Colorado had going. So losing them is tough. So those are the positions of need, I think, that I see for Colorado. Other positions that I would probably circle a little bit, safety, right? I think Carter and Tafiq, I'm fine with that being your starting safety duo, right? That's fine. After that, I think you need to go get another one. If Savion Riley truly is no longer with the team and Makari Vickers, I don't know his health status, but I think safety would also be an honorable mention here because you need as many weapons as possible. You need as many depth pieces as possible, and you need as many guys who could come in and start if needed as possible. And right now, I don't know if Colorado has that at those positions. So let me know what you think on which positions Colorado should target the most in the portal, and we will compare and contrast. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the guys who I'm most excited to see in the spring game. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage. Let's talk about it. The spring game is approaching. It's April, I think, 10th. If I'm not mistaken, Colorado spring game date. Right. April 19th, 10 days from now. That's where I was getting the 10 from. And it's one of those things where I'm fully aware that this team's going to look different. I'm going to highlight 5 players that I'm really excited to see because they're either going to be guys who I think are starters or were starters last year, or guys who I think will step into huge roles. So I'll just run you through the list and sort of express who I think could be someone worth watching. I think you have to start off with a guy I mentioned earlier. He actually came on the show a while ago, Zach Ekins at tight end. I'm interested to see what his role is with the offense, right? Colorado has not had a tight end that has been useful. Well, they had Mikey Harrison 2 years ago, but undersized, couldn't use him in the run blocking game, so they kind of knew if he was there for passing situations. But I like Zach Ekins. I want to see what he could do. He was the number 1 tight end at one point, and so we'll see where they do there. You have to go Julian Lewis, right? True freshman quarterback, 5-star. Like I said, I think Caden Salter wins the job because I think his legs are too much of a factor to not start him, at least to start the year. That being said, I want to see the true freshman. I want to see how he does against this defense. I want to see how he does in kind of a game scenario because who knows how often we'll see him. Who knows if we'll see him next year. I'm sure we will, but you never know. So I'd like to see how he slings the rock around. Let's go receiver. Even though I've kind of been low on this group as a whole in terms of experience, I think Quentin Gibson is a guy that excites me. He's a bottle of lightning in the bottle, super fast, a little bit undersized, but I think he's a guy that if he's in open space, look out. He's going to make some plays. Nose tackle, Jaheim Otis, number 1 player in the portal at one point. Big dude, really good year at Alabama his freshman year. Injuries, new staff kind of derailed what I think most people thought would have been a great career at Alabama. That's okay. I think Warren Sapp and company will really develop him and get him going in the right direction. But it's one of those things where it's like, I want to see him be a disruptor. I want to see him be the behemoth, be the monster that we all think he will be. And then Taufik Bayard is another guy who I'm excited about, really because I think he has a chance to be a star. I do, right? At safety, Colorado had Cam, they had Shiloh, both really good players. I think Taufik could be a level above both of them, and I think that's saying something. And then my final guy, RJ Johnson. He's a corner, transferred in from Houston prior to last season, and I think he's a guy that maybe gets forgotten in the fold because you look at their corners, they have Colton Hood, who's really good. He was what I think RJ Johnson will be this year, which is like the 4th corner, if you will. I said that right. Yeah, Colton Hood is what I think RJ Johnson will be this year. RJ Johnson's going to be that 4th guy that comes in, sort of makes big plays, or sort of when they need someone else to make an appearance. They also have DJ McKinney, who I thought was really good last year. I think will be even better now because him and Preston Hodge have a year under their belts with the defense coordinator, Robert Livingston. And I think that there's a lot of room for them to grow because I do think that this Colorado trio of corners has a chance to be one of the best in college football. That being said, I do think RJ Johnson is going to be a factor. So RJ Johnson, Taufik Bayard, Jaheim Otis is a guy who I'm excited about. Offensively, I'm looking at Julian Lewis. I'm looking at Zach Ekins. I think I said 5. I gave you guys 6. Wide receiver, I'm also looking at Quentin Gibson, because at the end of the day, we're going to be seeing a slew of new star players, a slew of new key players for Colorado. So this is our first real, I guess, introduction to them, right? Because we have seen them play, we have seen them in well-off media videos, but I think when it's nationally televised, when it's a spring game, everyone gets up for it a little bit more. I think things can change a little bit. Some guys may play a little bit better because it's game-like scenario. So those are the guys I'm excited to see. You guys comment below. Let me know who you're excited to see. We'll compare. We'll contrast. We'll see who's right. We'll see who's wrong. Either way, this has been Locked on Buffs, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Stay tuned because we're going to be talking a lot about the NFL draft. Teams are making moves, and I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be one of the hottest topics as we continue on towards the draft.